Joining me right now is the play-by-play voice of Upper Iowa football, Joe Stasi. And Joe, I know a tough matchup last week for Upper Iowa taking on the number one ranked team in Minnesota State, Mankato.
Elwin, again, thanks for giving Upper Iowa some nice publicity. Being the only Division II school in the state, it sure is nice to catch up with you each and every week. We've been doing this for a number of falls now. I'm in my 15th year behind the mic in the booth, and I know you and I have been doing this for quite some time. So again, everybody at Upper Iowa certainly thanks you for all your effort and your professionalism. And yeah, you know, we welcomed in the Minnesota State Mavericks to town. They're the number one team in the country. The previous week, of course, as you well know, and the listeners, most of our listeners know that we went up to University of Minnesota Duluth and played that squad very, very tough in a 28-24 loss where we took the lead late in the ball game and were driving to score and just couldn't convert on fourth down. And then, so you welcome in the standard by which to be measured by, and not only in our conference, not only in the South Division of the Northern Sun, but in the United States of America. When these guys get off the bus, they pass the eye test. It really does. It looks like a Division I college football team. And, you know, we had never beaten them. We were 0-9 against this team, and we knew that we could compete against the very best. You know, looking at the performance previous week against University of Minnesota Duluth, and Upper Iowa came out on Ag Day and matched the intensity. Coach Shea and his staff had these Upper Iowa Peacocks ready to play football, and Upper Iowa came out and took a 7-0 lead. Minnesota State then late in the first quarter tied it up, and then Upper Iowa's Brady Bushel kicked a 45-yard field goal in the second quarter, and that was the end of the scoring in the first half. And so Zach Carlisle and I, my broadcast partner, and 3,500 fans at Upper Iowa University were all looking around going, my goodness, we really have made it all the way to the top of the mountain, and just proving that we could play against the number one team in the country was it blew me away. And then it all came tumbling down in the second half. Minnesota State came out, and you know, I'm sure they had did some soul searching in the locker room, and they came out and they just shut us down offensively. Dimitri Morales for Upper Iowa, who came into the game at quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, efficiency-wise, had thrown no interceptions, and he threw 4 in that ball game. And in the second half, they had a pick 6 from a defensive lineman, and they just shut down our offense and got back on the bus with a 38-10 win over us. And we fell to 3-2, and now we move on, knowing that the two monsters are off our schedule. We're still 3-2 with 6 ball games left to play. So optimism is very high on campus at Upper Iowa University, especially going into homecoming.
Yeah, and going from a team that Upper Iowa has never beaten to a team that it has a 1-8 record against, and that's Concordia-St. Paul, as you mentioned, it's homecoming. So I know there'll be a lot of emotion tied into this game on Saturday. Concordia-St. Paul's, on paper at least, are a beatable team, just 1-4 on the year.
Yeah, you know, they've lost a couple of close ball games. They lost 30-28 to Minnesota State University Moorhead, a team that in the NSIC North has really come around over the past few years. They lost a 28-10 contest that was a lot closer than that to St. Cloud State, and they beat Minot State 28-13 as their only win on the season. Their other 2 losses were landslide losses. Bemidji State, they lost 47-7, and then they lost last week to Winona State, Upper Iowa's opponent, next week. You know, again, this is a team that the record says it all. We're 1-8 against them. This is a team that has been around Upper Iowa's level basically for the past 6-7 years, and we just haven't been able to pull the trigger against these guys. Last year, we went up to St. Paul and fell behind, I believe, by 24 points. We came out in the second half just on fire, took the lead, and then went into overtime, and Tom Obarski for the Golden Bears kicked a long field goal in overtime to win 37-34. So, you know, Upper Iowa just has to start over and realize that they can still very easily have the best season since moving to NCAA Division II, and quite possibly the best season in Upper Iowa football history if they can get to that 8-win mark. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Homecoming this Saturday at Upper Iowa University, and as you know, Elwin, anytime there's homecoming at Fayette, I know you've been around a lot of homecomings at UNI and Wartburg and a lot of high schools and stuff, but this is a different animal. Last week's game, it was a little bit underattended. Coach Heller was back for the Upper Iowa baseball reunion, and you know, there's like I said, there's probably around 33 to 3,500 people there. This week, it's really cool. The entire town of Fayette fills up, and there's a huge crowd on hand. The press box is jam-packed, and the stands are jam-packed, and so, as you mentioned, the emotions will be high when Concordia-St. Paul comes to town for that 6 o'clock kickoff. And, of course, we invite everybody to come on up and check out this ball game. It should be a lot of fun, and bring your radios and come on up to the press box and say hi to me.
2 weeks ago, a bad first half, a slow start in the game at Minnesota Duluth, and then a bad second half last week against the number one ranked team in Minnesota State Mankato. Is the main key for this game this week, Joe, you think, sustaining and playing well all 4 quarters?
Well, you know, any coach will tell you that you got to play football for the entire ball game, 60 minutes. Yeah, you know, you come out, and what Upper Iowa would like to do is get off to a quick start. Concordia University St. Paul has been outscored in the first quarter 45-0. So what Upper Iowa wants to do psychologically is start the way they did last week as far as coming out, matching the intensity and exceeding the intensity of their opponent. Hopefully get Concordia down a couple, 2 or 3 scores, and then just not let them back in the ball game. You have to imagine with a 1-4 record, and not being able to score any points in the first quarter yet in 5 ball games, if they get on the board, that's going to increase their confidence and their swagger, and could ride the momentum into another tight ball game. So you're right. Yeah, play 60 minutes of football, but even more importantly, come out and stop them defensively, and then get on the board a couple, 2 or 3 times quick, and hopefully ride this thing out. Our defense, I tell you what, Elwin, it continues to impress. You know, you look at the 4 interceptions that we had that we gave up last week, and there was a pick 6 involved in there, and they scored off of every turnover. You know, really, our defense played well enough to stay in the ball game against Minnesota State. They would have had, I believe, 21 points offensively. So our defense just needs to come and play like they have been playing. They've been running around. We have some depth on the defensive line. We have some all-conference, all-American type players, and Javelle Rollins on the defensive line, Alex Wall at his linebacker position, Tate Thompson in the secondary, and then Dimitri Morales at quarterback. You know, we just need to find a better mix of run and pass, and hand it off to this young Derek Portis, a freshman that's really turned up for us, and get some blocking up front. I think we'll be okay, and I like our chances in this one.
Homecoming in Fayette here on Saturday. It's a night ball game under the lights at Harms Eyeshade Stadium in Fayette. 6 o'clock start. If you can't make it to Fayette, we'll have all the play-by-play coverage right here starting at around 5:30 on AM 950 KOEL.